Hi, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at investment markets. The sort of events in Davos has really been overtaken by the coronavirus that is sort of spreading globally at present. Certainly in terms of Davos, very little came out of that. There was quite a little bit of talk and a few sort of headlines, etc. But really most of it was focused on climate change and what they hope to be doing. But really very little concrete came out in terms of policies. But the major issues obviously facing the global economy at present is coronavirus. That's sort of come out of China. Currently there's around sort of 16 odd cities in lockdown. That's around 46 million people. Now, those 46 million people have pretty strict conditions on travel, etc., and is really just trying to contain this virus. It certainly has spread. There are cases in the US, potentially Australia, Europe as well. Obviously, the main concern is that authorities are sort of struggling to really get in front of this. The major issues obviously is the fact that there doesn't appear to be a cure at present, and there's no vaccine either. Most big drug companies are sort of working towards that sort of end game, but it's really just trying to identify, break down really what the virus is, and then really how to be able to treat it and vaccinate against it. But at present, numbers are still pretty low. If you compare it to SARS back in mortality rate of that was around 15%. We're looking here on the coronavirus at around sort of 3% at present. So really just be interesting to see one, say whether the authorities can come up with some sort of vaccine and cure, identify what the virus, exactly what the virus is, and then obviously just try and sort of really get in front of it. So as yet, the impact on the sort of global economy is really pretty much unknown. Certainly it will slow things down just a little bit, but it could just be a minor sort of blip if they can sort of get in front of it. If it is a little bit prolonged, then maybe it has a little bit more meaningful impact. But at present, just taking the US share market, the Dow Jones, that's come off around sort of 600 points. It's then, sort of gradually sort of creeping back a little bit. Certainly some of these sort of earnings come through, market then falls a little bit and then recovers, falls a little bit and recovers. There's certainly not any meaningful selling pressure yet. Some analysts have even sort of hinted that maybe the market was looking for a little bit of a breather and looking for an excuse just to come off the boil just a little bit, because certainly we've had a pretty decent run over the last sort of 3 to 6 months. Now, against this backdrop, you've got earnings season in the US, and it'll just be very interesting to see Apple's earnings later this week. President Trump is also facing sort of fresh pressure on the impeachment trials. And explosive allegations have come out from his former national security advisor, John Bolton, which really sort of tends to hint that President Trump knew exactly what he was doing in terms of the calls with the Ukrainian president. Aid was withheld unless there were some investigations taking place into Mr. Biden and the sort of Democratic Party. And potentially that is maybe leaning some of the Republicans now looking to call John Bolton as one of the witnesses. Certainly last week they were vehemently against that. But I say with these allegations coming out and this sort of fresh sort of allegations on in the press from his latest book coming out, some are maybe wavering now and thinking that maybe he should be called. And certainly if that is the case, it would be very interesting to see how the vote would go then. The UK has come out as well and said that Huawei, the Chinese telecommunications giant, will be allowed to be involved in part of its 3G network, although it has some sort of limitations placed on it. That has further upset the US and President Trump as well. Just over a week away now, the UK will then formally leave the EU. Brexit will be done, and then, as I say, it's just going to be interesting to see how the sort of potential trade deals are negotiated and sort of put into place going forward, and see what impact that will have on the UK economy. Here in New Zealand, quite a bit of news coming through. Prime Minister Ardern has announced that the general election will now be on September the 19th. That's quite interesting because that's going to lead to a very long sort of run-in now. We know what the date is. Potentially campaigning is sort of going to start pretty much sort of straight away. And it's just going to be interesting to see how that sort of plays through. It's certainly going to be a long run through until September. And it's just going to be interesting, to see how the numbers stack up in terms of polls, etc. Because at present, both the major parties, National and Labour, are pretty sort of close in the polls. The other news has really been the sort of fiscal boost of the economy as well from increased government spending. But also the state housing as well has sort of come out, and they're going to look to spend an extra sort of $4 billion as well. That's a further little boost. Will place fresh pressure on the construction industry and sort of building firms as well. So that potentially will sort of drive up costs a little bit and maybe give a little bit of inflation into the economy, which certainly some of the central banks have been trying to sort of push through. Because present inflation really is really pretty benign globally. Now, obviously, in this low interest rate environment, if you are looking for income, it is pretty tough out there in terms of bond returns, etc. But if you are looking for income options, there are plenty of alternatives available. And if you're interested in discussing what is out there, call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz for lots of interesting articles, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.